Guy here. The big advantage I have is being able to live here. You know, when the weather lines up for any wave, I like to try to get out there and play in it. And I started off by doing some downwind or yo-yo stuff up and down the Sierra. Recently I have been making some attempts going downwind and wave, basically running along with the jet stream and trying to get as far as I can. I mean, Rapid City is not necessarily a goal, it's just, you know, something I declare, but I'd like to go much further beyond that, weather permitting. So, by the way, if anyone has any questions during this thing, raise your hand, feel free to shout it out or whatever. A lot of this stuff is, I'm not going to get too scientific here because I don't know much about science, but we'll start this thing up. I'll talk about the flight I made this year, February 17th, from Minden to Casper. A few downwind attempts I've made. Years ago I flew to Steamboat, Colorado, my old single place glider. And that was like 700, a little over 700 miles. Last year we made a flight to Gunnison, Colorado, towards kind of the southeast. And our kind of main focus is to, just for weather purposes, kind of tracking up towards the northeast, because that's where the weather, for the most part, will run. So this flight on February 17th was a 744-mile flight, and it was all in wave. So some of these flights you have to transition from pretty much a wave to a thermal type thing if the wave shuts down, and so you have to really switch gears there. But this was all done in wave.
What are you flying toward?
That's what I was going to get to.
Oh, sorry.
Thanks for asking. I'm flying a Duodiscus. I am not the owner of the Duodiscus, and the owner is an older gentleman that got kind of going with soaring late in the game. And he's having a ball. He's in the front seat. I'm in the back seat. The thing is very well equipped for the wave flying we're doing. It's got to be. It's a Duodiscus turbo, so it had an engine in the back. We pulled the motor out and mounted two big oxygen cylinders to the engine mount, because we need all the oxygen we can get, because we're up high and we're using a lot being up high and being up for a long period of time. So it's a Duodiscus, and we're trying to always getting off, well before sunrise. Walt Rogers, who's a retired meteorologist, lives down in Palmdale, Lancaster. He's been helping with the weather on these flights, and basically my goal on these flights, not necessarily to get a record, but I think it's to mostly share this experience with others, especially the non-flying types, because they can really relate to straight out type distances. And with the technology nowadays, we can do live tracking. People can see our speed, time, altitude, and things like that. And what I'm doing during the flight is I'm trying to take pictures and fire those pictures off. If I have like a 3G signal, fire them off to Walt. He puts it on his blog, and so he actually has live updates as the flight's going on, and that also includes video if I can get it. So there's a lot going on. I'm trying to fly and record this thing, and I'm talking on the sat phone to Walt Rogers, also giving him updates And also, he's giving me updates on the weather, because he sees a lot more on the ground with the computer stuff. You know, I'm just able to see what the eye can see. So this day was a totally blue day. There were no cloud markers at all. So you just kind of had to go based off of where you thought the wave would be. So you're looking at high terrain, you know, basically wave generators, mountain ranges that would generate the wave. So the weather we're looking for is generally kind of a south. You see the arrow here. If you can't see it, let me know. Kind of looking for a southwest type flow, what we call a zonal flow, where typically you'll get a flow that runs down and, you know, you have a big hook in it over the course of a, you know, an easterly flight. But what we'd like to have is just a flow that pretty much runs, you know, southwesterly out into Wyoming and then out east into the Dakotas. So we're looking for that all the time, and our key months are March, April, May. This flight was a little early in the year. Days are short. You're going east, you're losing daylight. So, you know, get over to Central Time. You could potentially lose 2 hours of daylight. We are here. This is Minden right here. And this is called a high rapid refresh. What is it, Jim? The high rapid refresh rate. High rapid refresh rate. HR models. And basically, they're still kind of in, I think, in a test phase with this thing, but anything in the orange marks lift, and this is all wave lift. So we're right here. So you can see right here, this was February 17th at 7 in the morning, 6 in the morning at that time. So it was roughly at launch time. So you can see some activity right here in the orange, and we did tow out of here. I think it's 6:20 or 6:30 or so, 6:45 I think in the morning. Got off right about at sunrise, a little earlier maybe. Towed up, and this is a 700 millibar chart. You can kind of see the flow is more of a west-east, but you can see there's no, you know, there's no dips in the flow or anything like that. It's pretty much a west to east flow. So the flow is actually pretty good, and you can see the wind bars right there, 35. We're right here. So it's a little light where we are, but you know, our track is up into this area. There's Salt Lake City. So you can see we get in this energy here once we get into Wyoming, and there are the Dakotas here. So it's kind of our goal.
What altitude is that?
That's at, for the most part, ridge-top level, 700 millibar. And that is, that's in the afternoon at 21Z. It's at 1 o'clock, I think. Here's a 500 millibar chart, 18,000 feet. So you're pretty much seeing the same kind of flow. You want to see that. You want to see an increase, obviously, with wind speed with altitude. So yeah, that's what you're seeing here. So the flow is actually looking pretty good. And this is our proposed route of flight. And 933 miles. Why I pick Rapid City, I don't know. It's just, you know, I might change that if we're going to go to the southeast, and I'll pick something way out. Last year we had a goal of Garden City, Kansas as a goal. We didn't make that either. So that's kind of our proposed routing right there. This is just kind of give you an idea how cluttered things get. We've got DeLorme inReach, satellite phone. So there's a lot of stuff that's getting powered. We have about 110 amps of battery power. You know, the big batteries, I think 95 amps. And then now we get 2 other backups for that. And the thing with this is you got to have backups and more backups, because if one goes down, we've got 2 transponders in the thing too. So if one thing goes down, it's game over, you know. The flight's done. And there's just a ton of prep work that goes into this, so you don't want to have to descend because something goes bonkers on you. So, like I said, I have to sit in the back seat. I'm too tall for the front seat of this thing. Yeah.
Any solar chargers?
No, I don't think we need it. We got plenty of juice. And for the most part, we're usually roughly using about 2 to 3 amps with everything. What are you using, Jim? You're always squawking, right?
We're always squawking. We have solar. We actually have a 40 amp hour
Okay.
lithium ion and
Yeah.
like a 15 amp hour lithium ion backup, and then the engine battery, which we never use.
Oh, yeah, okay. So the key thing of these flights is it's battery and oxygen. You know, those are the two big deals. You want a lot of. I know when I had my Kestrel, I was very limited just because of space in the cockpit, and it always came down to the last couple hours where I'm going, ooh, you know, I'm down to 400 pounds of oxygen. You're going, this is getting close, and you don't want to have to worry about that. Same thing with battery power. So now we're pretty much set. So that's how it looks. That was right before takeoff. As you can see, we got off a little later than we would have liked. That's the tow. That's looking out west. There's some in the airport.
What are you wearing? Just basic ski clothes or what?
No, I've got an expedition suit with some layers underneath. It's a buddy of mine climbed K2 when he got done with it because I don't need this anymore. So he gave me the suit, and you know, it's a one-piece suit. But do you need a one? No, but I think the key is to stay warm.
How
Yeah.
about your feet? Do you have any special treatment?
I do have heated socks. And you just bought, we probably have 15 lithium batteries, you know. I try not to use them or rely on them because, you know, if you're not prepared for the things not to, then you're done, you know. So I carry pretty heavy boots. That's one of the reasons I can't sit in the front seat. It's just too bulky. It's so cramped in that thing. It's unbelievable. You know, Jim knows the game. But I think after a while, after a couple hours, you kind of settle into it, and you get used to it. You know. That's over Carson Sea. That's looking east, and you know you just kind of see high clouds. Nothing really, marking any kind of significant way. That's just a nice, pretty shot over Lake Tahoe. You know, that's a climb.
How high do you tow to? You try to tow
That
into
tow,
the way?
you know, the thing with these flights, you don't want to take a low tow and spend an hour. You want to get right to the meat of the laminar flow, get up and get out of Dodge, because that's, you know, every time we climbed out of here on these long flights, it seems like it takes us a couple hours to get out because we just had some really slow climbs. Our flight to Logan last week, whenever a couple weeks ago, that was actually we got out of here, we got to 28 pretty fast, and we were on the Ruby Range out almost crossing the Utah by 9 a.m., which is what you want. Because it's fatiguing, it takes a lot out of you when you're sitting there, you know, Jim knows, sitting in a 2-knot climb, and you're looking at your UDI and you're looking at your lift outs, having to center on it just a little little area lift, it's horrible. It really takes a lot of wind out of your sails, because there's so many times you fly out of here and you're going up 15, 20 knots. It happens a lot. And then the day when you're going downwind on a big flight, you're going up 2 knots, you go, what's this all about? You know, it's just not fair. So that's, got a butterfly Vario, and that 9 knots or whatever, 8 knots you see there, that didn't last long. So I think I took that because I was, oh, look at this, we're going up, and then, right after I took that shot, it went down, and I never got it back. So this is on the task. It's once again, it's that HR model. This is at 18Z, so at the time it was 11 a.m. So our first run was out here. You can see kind of a dead area out here. We climbed up, no significant sink, and we ended up over Mount Augusta. And once I'm done talking, I'll go over the leg segments and the altitude losses and things like that, just to kind of give you an idea what happens when you go downwind. So this is Mount Augusta, kind of central, getting into central Nevada there. Second climb was out over the Rubies, and that's always a goal, is to hit these Rubies here before you cross into Utah. And then for the most part, you run from here, it's a dead glide all the way over into Logan, Utah. You can see right here, this is the Logan area, Bear Lake, and there's some wave right there.
What is that, about 220?
That was 100 and, Ruby to Ray, it was 170 miles. We made a dead glide, from the...
Gordon, what's blue on these charts?
Blue is the sink, and see that? That's bad. Red's good.
Gordon?
Yeah.
You're going to talk about what kind of air traffic clearance you get?
Yeah, I had a clearance with, up in a Class A, above between 18 and 28,000 feet with Oakland, Salt Lake, and Denver Center.
What do they actually give you?
I will typically I request 4,000 foot blocks. If I request a 2,000 foot block, I'm bothering them a lot, you know. So, you know, I'll get a 4,000 foot block typically, and they use, you know, I've never had them not granted, you know. Last couple weeks ago, we were over here over the Rubies, and they had a Horizon Air try to, you know, like, hey, we got a glider trying to record attempt. Can you get to 25,000 a year in the next 20 miles? Yeah, no problem. So, you know, they work with you.
And they know your route?
They know the routing. As soon as I file an IFR clearance the day before, I call and file an IFR clearance, file an IFR flight plan. The routing is very. You never fly. You never fly when you fly. As soon as you leave, you ask for you know, like you request, you know, track 082 for 30 miles. Okay, you know, and then once you stop, you know, like to, you know, orbit here within, you know, 5 or 10 mile radius. Okay, granted. So as the flight goes on, they get the idea that you're zigzagging all over the place, and you know, you never, you know, I always file for, you know, some VOR and then another VOR, pretty much straight line, and then Rapid City, and, you know, they go, you're cleared direct to, a VOR, and I said, oh, I'd like a good course, you know, I'd like to hold the track.
Do you have a VOR on board?
What's that?
Do you have a VOR on board?
I do not have a VOR panel, no.
Do you have GPS?
Yeah, it's all GPS, so. So the first climb was obviously here near, just north, near Washoe Lake, and then Mount Augusta, and then the Rubies, and then it was dead glide out here to Logan. This was kind of what the sky looked like, looking north, and I think this was I believe out here now. I believe out near central Nevada. Now this for sure is crossing the Ruby Range. So this is taken right here. Once again, no markers. So we cross this. You got to be high to cross these guys, and then we ended up running, paralleling this up to the north end of the Rubies, just south of Wells, and then we turned downwind from there for that 170 mile glide. So we made that run over towards Logan. And this is all Walt Rogers' work here. He did a really good job with all marking this stuff. So this is at 22Z. When I said it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it's roughly when we got here. So our goal was to climb near Bear Lake and then head up the Wind River Range. You can see those guys. Those things just go off. Those really are good. And then the Bighorn Range is up here in northeast Wyoming. Wind Rivers is kind of south central Wyoming. So here's Logan. We got down around 13,000 feet near Logan, climbed a couple thousand feet, and made a run over the high ground over into Bear Lake. That was, I didn't know it was going to go on there at Bear Lake. And then this is looking kind of towards the southeast, crossing the high ground. Here's Bear Lake right here. So we climbed at Bear Lake. It took us a long time, probably maybe an hour or so, or close to that, to really hook into wave. It wasn't, like I said, it was blue wave, so we kind of stumbled upon it. It was further downwind than we had expected, but once we hooked up, we got up to 28, and I tried to get it climbed to 30. Because of RVSM, which means reduced vertical separation minimum, we're not allowed to get above 28. We just can't equip a glider to go up in RVSM airspace, you know, because you need all this equipment that's pretty much cost prohibitive and space prohibitive in a sailplane. So I did ask the controller for a climb to 30 just to kind of test the water there to see if they'd buy off on it. And she goes, let me check with my supervisor. Not unable. So I was expecting it. So we left here and then started making a run towards Riverton. And as soon as we left the Bear Lake area, they said, hey, we're not getting your mode C, which we're not getting your altitude. So I switched over to the other transponder. That's why we have another transponder, right? Well, that didn't work either. So we continued a slow descent, and I requested the only landable place is out here. It's an airport out in the middle of nowhere. This is just really no man's land out here, and it was all snow covered, so it was really kind of strange looking. But I asked for a continued track and a slow descent, and she said, well, you know, we may need to get you down fast because you know, we're still not getting your mode C, and you know, it just you know, it went on for probably 10 minutes, and you know, she just couldn't take it anymore. She goes, okay, we need to blow 18 now, and so right away I said, well, I looked at all the alternate airports, and they were out of, you know, too unsafe to land for winds. I'd like to proceed direct Riverton, and she was approved. So she bought off on that one, and so as we started descending, we started getting kind of towards the Wind River range here, and this is a real spooky range because it's really high, and it's just this ominous, wide-looking range, and it was all snow covered, and you see the wind blowing off the peaks, and it just looked ugly. But we ended up crossing that, and just as we started getting on the west, on the windward side of it, we got down around 15 or 16. I asked Hugh in the front seat, I said, hey, are you getting a mode C up front? He goes, yeah, it's transponder showing altitude. So I called Salt Lake, and they said, yeah. I said, you getting a mode C now? They said, yeah, we're getting a mode C. I said, okay. So the encoders were getting too cold, you know, up high. We fixed that problem. So they were rated at minus 30, and that, I guess, wasn't good enough for the encoders, but I think it was a temperature issue. So here's the Wind River range. We cross this, and here you can see it. So this is looking north. So we had this expanse to cross, and we just got hammered with sink from here on. It kind of made Hugh nervous because we're getting a lot of sink here. I go, yeah. So we just shoved the nose right. See, the only visible sign of wave we had that day was just a little rotor cloud west of Riverton, and I mean, just seeing that little wisp, that's all you need. Jim knows that. And you guys, when you fly a wave, it's just the smallest little thing is all you need, and that tells you everything. And so I knew we were going to hit a good wave there. So we pressed on. These are the surface winds out. It was howling. You know, it's funny, I never even paid attention to what the surface winds were because I just wanted to keep flying, and I had to, you know, obviously when I landed I had to worry about it, but it was 35, 40 knots on the ground or something like that. That was...
Were you able to get that information in the cockpit? What was surface?
No, I could have asked. I could have asked Salt Lake at the time. So what happened was back here, we climbed up on the Wind River range. Our goal was to get out here to the Bighorns. We ran out of daylight. We got to 20. We were climbing our 6 or 8 knots right here, just climbing like gangbusters in front of that rotor cloud. And that rotor cloud was way high, a lot higher than I would have thought. But we climbed here and we ran out of daylight because we had to get to the Bighorns. That's another big range to cross, and then we had another 100 and some odd miles to get to the Black Hills to South Dakota. So I made a decision there that we were going to bail off and just go east towards Casper and call it a day. So we ran pretty much due east. I called Salt Lake, say I've got a new destination. Casper's our new destination. So I had Casper made with a ton of altitude, so I just shoved the nose over, and Denver. Eventually, we got over to Denver Center, and they said, "Hey, your ground speed is pretty impressive." It was, I think, 220 knot grounds, 250 miles an hour. So we were smoking. I'm just trying to bleed off altitude. Plus, when you're up high, you think you got all the day in the world, but lights are on downtown, and it was getting dark down there really, really fast. So they gave us the weather, and we switched up Casper approach. They have an approach control there, and so they lit up the airport for us, and we were able to see it, and we circled down, and they cranked the lights on them. We touched down, and Walt was nice enough to call the FBO there, and so we had 8 people show up, and they pushed us right into a hangar, and we were hangared, in this hangar, 15 minutes after we landed. So
Do you have navigation lights and landing light?
Yeah, well, we went on landing lights, just nav lights. Just anyway, Walt's got a blog that he was posting everything on, and it was really neat after the flight. We just got a lot of positive feedback from especially the non-aviation types that just had no clue about soaring, had no idea what you can do in a sailplane. They were just amazed, that was just really cool following that whole thing. So, and that to me, that was worth everything right there, So if we can get a couple pilots out of that, that's great. If you wanted to see the CU file, I can show you that real quick. How are we doing on time? You want to talk Niner? Does anyone have any questions here while I'm pulling this up? Or?
So, did you just kind of parallel the ridges a couple of times to get more altitude?
Yeah. I think if we get a climb out of here somewhere between here and the Rubies, then we're set. But it seems like there's always a problem. We have all these ranges that run north-south out of here. It's always seems to be a soft spot, where things get a little tough. But and you just gotta figure out how much do I need to climb here to get over to the next ridge. And so you're really looking way ahead, Thermal soaring, you're looking ahead 30, 40 miles a lot of times, and here you're looking ahead, over 100 miles. So,
With that much tailwind, what's your speed of fly when you're on the bike?
you're pretty slow. 55, 60 knots. Just let the wind do the work. If I get in strong sync, then I'll speed up. But the key is just kind of let the wind do the work there. So
You ever use sort of snow dust devils to pick up where a rotor might be?
Never have.
They do that in New Zealand. I did it a few times.
Oh, really?
They had to be a little lower. You can't see them from real high.
Yeah,
If you're down about 10,000 or lower sometimes, and they said, if you see a snow devil, you go directly upwind of it, and then turn straight toward it downwind. And it worked a couple of times for me.
Oh, no kidding.
A good solid rotor to get right back.
Really? Wow. The key on these flights is just to stay up.
Yeah.
Stay up high, above 18. Because, your true airspeeds are working for you, you got the winds working for you. So it's, on the Logan flight, we had so much cloud cover below us that we had to stay high. Because once you get below it, then you're dealing with cloud cover and you're in and out of that stuff. So this is pretty much our routing. You can see the initial climb was up here near Washoe. A lot of times when the wave is weak down here in the Minden area, you go up to Washoe and it's cranking up there. The winds seem to, do you know why that is, Jim, around here? Why the wind's always howling up there in the Washoe Valley?
I don't know, this is the shape of the mountain, and you got a slightly southwest flow.
Yeah. Anyway, we took a climb up there, and then you can see the run. It was pretty much a straight run. Another thing you got to worry about is restricted areas. This day luckily it was President's Day, so I knew everything was pretty wide open. So I called Salt Lake and I said, hey, how about 48, I think 46, whatever it is out there near Hill Air Force Base. That's all wide open. So you have to, especially during the week, on the weekdays, you have to anticipate, and that's another thing about these flights. You have to anticipate having to go around airspace. You got to stay clear of Salt Lake. Because of departures and arrivals, there's no way they're going to push the heavies around you. Because first of all, there's terrain and they're getting these guys in and out. So they're going to move me around instead of those guys.
Well, Logan's pretty close, isn't it?
No, it's a ways north. Well, let me look here. Logan is. By the way, I use ForeFlight a lot too. That's my navigation. So Logan is 70 miles north of Salt Lake. So you're clear out of everyone's way. So this is Mount Augusta here. That was the essentially the first climb downwind to here, and then we ended up kind of working our way up to the northeast. And paralleling these ridges, and picked up a climb just south of Winnemucca here. Battle Mountain. And then from there, we had enough to pretty much make it across Rubies. These guys are pretty high. So, and there are some farm fields to land on back here, but you always have to be thinking 30, 40 knots of surface wind, and things are ugly on the ground, plus you're getting knocked around, so it's nice to land at a big airport. So Wells is typically, a good alternate up there. So I ran up, and we got to 28 here, and then I got some notes on that. Once we got got to Ruby's, we were down at 14.7, then got to 28, and made a 170-mile run to Logan. We got there at 15, so we lost 13,000 feet in 170 miles. And then climbed up to 28 at Bear Lake, flew another 136 miles, got to 14.7 over the Wind River Range on that last climb, then got to 26, and then just dove into Casper there really fast. So here's the run over the Great Salt Lake, and there's just nothing. Just sitting there gliding for a long, long time, and you can see this range right here near Logan. That typically is works fairly well. And then you got a commitment out here. There's nothing to land out here. Disregard that. Showing an airport, but it doesn't really exist. So this is kind of your only landable spot for the most part out there. And then once you, we climbed to 28 here, and then you can see the straight line right there. And that was, this run right here is a 130, roughly 140 mile run. So we crossed, it's a pretty wide range. We pretty much took a direct tailwind right here. And once we got into Wyoming, it was cranking. The winds aloft really started picking up. So we got here and then got up to 26, because could have kept climbing, but we're out of daylight, and then we just straight shot right into Casper right here. So the Bighorn Range is right up here. This is kind of the south edge of them. But look at that. It's a big boy there too. And then from that, you can make it out to the Black Hills right here and Rapid Cities, right here. This does generate some wave. That is your last wave generator eastbound. So the nice thing about going to the northeast is that you're dealing with high ground, but not as high as the Rockies. I mean, the Rockies, you're dealing with a lot of big mountain stuff out there, and that's tough to stay above all that stuff. So.
So was daylight the only thing that stopped you then?
Yeah.
Going on?
I mean, now that we have an attitude indicator in there that's pretty reliable, I'm pretty safe with continuing on in the night. But my concern was crossing this thing, crossing the Bighorn Range in the pitch black. And there aren't any lights out here. It's nice to have some. You just need just a small town, and you can fly without an attitude indicator. But I didn't have that attitude indicator that I have in there now, so I just did not want to risk doing that. That would have been pretty unsafe. So we opted just to go to Casper and play it safe. So, any other questions or?
Did you have to inform ATC that you were on a record run? Is that why they pay attention to you?
Yeah.
So you positioned yourself so you could do all this stuff?
Correct.
Did you find you got cold at night as the sun went low?
Yeah, it's just, I don't think there's any way to eat yourself. It's just brutal. I mean, the Logan flight we took off, it was dark when we took off. Not that we're going to get cold on that, but it was pretty warm on the ground. So the problem we've had in the past is taking off, and the inside canopy fog. We have clear vision panels, so we don't get iced up. But that Casper flight, we took off, and I had Hugh sitting in the cockpit. So we towed him out with him in the cockpit, and so the canopy was down, so he completely fogged the inside of the canopy. And so we couldn't get rid of it, and I'm sitting there going, what do we do? And, one time I had one AAT just crank get some airflow in there, and that didn't help. So I just opened the side vent and go, here we go. We don't get roll break. So I just kind of flew out of the side vent, and then once we entered about 400 feet, it cleared up. But we have the nose vent completely sealed off, because it does leak, and if it constantly leaks, even the smallest amount, it gets brutal. So we try to seal the whole cockpit off so it stays as warm as possible.
How does this flight, I know, like in New Zealand, for example, they go back and forth,
Yeah.
South Island, North Island. So for distance and time, because they're running parallel to the wave the whole time.
Right.
They don't certainly have the challenges you do. So how do you categorize this flight in order to make it, is it just a United States distance record, or is it a...
It's funny. It's not, I've always wanted to go downwind. It's always been kind of a fascination of mine, and Yacht Kirtner, who's not with us anymore, he worked for NCAR, National Center for Atmospheric Research in Boulder, and I remember reading some articles about downwind wave flying. I thought it was fascinating. It's a ton of work because you got not only the logistics but the crew, and for us going to Logan's a bust. I mean, Jim flew 2,100 kilometers. We flew 450 kilometers or 450 miles. So almost a quarter of what he did. But
Did anybody ever collect Kuttner's second prize for, what was it, 2,000 kilometers downwind?
well, Klaus Ullmann got it, but Yacht Kirtner's his intention was for it to be a downwind flight.
Yes,
Where-
he made a second prize for
But-
downwind flight.
Well, he did it along the Andes, right?
Yeah, he started El Calafate, he went north.
Yeah,
So
so
he-
he was
he-
disappointed at that.
So he kind of used one source of lift for the most part. Yacht Kirtner's goal is to get up and go, boom, just run with a jet stream, go climb another big wave generator, and just kind of use a sawtooth type method, what we're doing. So, and a lot of people come to me in the past and, oh God, when I was younger flying, I want to do something out of Washington, fly to, some crazy place in a 232. So, and you kind of think that's crazy, but, so I think those people